Hey there, Joel from 8400 Lights here, and today I thought I would show you a project I did this year to replace all of my control wiring between my different controllers. So I do my controllers a little bit differently in the fact that when I put them out, I put them in these bins and lay them flat like this. That allows me to stack them. I'm in Minnesota and we get all kinds of weather here, rain, snow, sun, you name it. So I like putting them in the bins so that I get a little bit extra water protection and waterproofing from the elements. And then what I do is I've just taken and cut a hole in the side to run my cables in and out of. And then I have this marine grade vinyl that I have cut as a patch over my hole and some slats that I can run my cables through, and then that is riveted onto the side of the bin here so that I get a little bit of protection from rain and snow getting in through my hole. And this works really pretty well. Again, I can stack my controllers in this and they get some protection from the elements. I'm pretty much like everybody in that I use Ethernet cabling to run between my controllers for my control lines. Standard stuff, most of us use this with the crimp-on male end on the one side. And the very first year that I did my show, I went ahead and set up my systems such that if this was the cable that ran between my controllers, I would take one end of this, and then again, here's a standard controller. I open that up, right? And I would have just taken this and run it up through here and through a little port, and then plugged it into our jacks here. Now again, I live in Minnesota. I am typically taking down my display in January, where if I'm lucky it's 32 degrees out, and if I'm really unlucky it's about -10 out. So I found that after my first year trying to get into these controllers, open up the cases and disconnect this cable while dressed in winter clothing was not exactly a fun thing to do. So starting in my second year, I added these little pigtails coming out of each one of my controllers, and then started using these little couplers here that just plug in one end into my pigtail and then one end into my cable that runs between my controllers. So this worked really well for the first year, but what I started to find out is that this standard Ethernet cable just really isn't up to the rigors of being outside in a harsh weather environment. I found I was getting a lot of cracks in the outer coating of it. I would have animals that would come chew on it. I had one cut all the way through it one year, as well as these little connectors here started to become very finicky over the years. So you think that they're attached, but there really isn't a very good signal going through, and I'd have some controllers show up and some drop out, and it was just starting to cause a lot of problems, especially as my show grew and I added more controllers. I started to see a lot of lagging with the display. So I decided this year that I was going to go ahead and replace all of this cabling with outdoor rated Ethernet cable or direct burial Ethernet cable. Okay, so this is a spool of what's called direct burial or outdoor Ethernet cable that I bought. You can get this at a lot of different places, Monoprice, eBay, etc. There's a lot of different configurations that you can get with this. What I ended up getting was a jacket that has UV protection, because again we get a lot of sunlight, as well as an interior construction that includes a waterproof tape. Now some of these constructions that I saw do not include the waterproof tape. You can also get something that's called gel filled, which I do not recommend at all, because from my research The gel can be highly flammable and is really meant for scenarios where you're going to bury it into the ground. Even though this is direct burial, I am not going to bury it in the ground. I just want a more robust cable than the standard Ethernet cable that can stand up to the harsher elements a little bit better. This jacket is a little thicker. If you were to feel this, it's a little more solid. Now the other thing is I would highly recommend that you buy pure copper cable and not copper-clad aluminum or CCA. Yes, CCA cable is less expensive, but it simply does not perform as well as pure copper cable does. Okay, so one of the things I've done is to measure the distance between each of my controller bins so that I can create a custom cable length for each run. This is a 15-foot run of cable that I've already cut off and now have to put ends on. Because of the increased strength of this cable, the jacket, and the wires, I decided I did not want to put a male RJ45 end on this. That, and I also am trying to get away from using those little connectors to join to my pigtails. Instead, what I did is I went ahead and got some of these Keystone Jacks, or what these are called, and these are the same kind of jacks that you would see used in industrial networking wiring in the walls. Again, available your big box retailers, eBay, wherever you want to go, Monoprice, etc. So I'm going to actually attach these on to the ends of my cable, and then I have a couple of these singular boxes here to put those Keystone Jacks in. And doing this is a really pretty easy installation. These Keystone Jacks have little wiring codes on them. There's two different codes for these. It's called the T568A and the T568B standards. Either one you can use, A to A, B to B. It doesn't really matter that much. A is a little bit more common. But this little wiring diagram on the side tells you exactly how to lay the wires in here to attach this connector. So we'll go ahead and attach one of these connectors now. I'll start by stripping back a little of this outer jacket on one end, and I'll just use my connector as kind of a guide to say how much to strip out. I'll do about this much. A couple turns, pull that off. And here you can see this white tape, almost kind of a paper on the outside. That is that waterproof coating, so that if the cable does get nicked, we have this waterproof tape on the inside to continue to provide another layer of protection. So we'll just cut that out of the way, like that. And then we'll go ahead and start laying our wires into the connector here. So according to the T568A, we'll start with the blues on this side and then oranges on this side. These are twisted, so we'll just untwist them. Now I'm only going to untwist the two pairs that I'm working with because we want to try to maintain as much of these twists as possible. But because the blue and the orange pairs are going into this first set of connectors here, we'll go ahead and untwist them all the way. And the way these tend to be identified is blue and blue with white, orange and orange with white. So first we have blue and then blue with white. Just kind of lay that in there and tuck that wire down. This is a little tool that came with one of the jacks I got one time. It just kind of helps set the wire into the connector there. And we'll do orange and orange with white. Then we'll do, next set are the browns on the right side and the greens on the left. Untwist just enough of this to where we can get it into the connector. We'll do the greens. So we have our wires set into the jack here, and now we'll just use a punch down tool to go ahead and secure these, as well as trim off any of these excess wires sticking out the edge. So now that is all secured. These come with a little plastic clip, goes over the top. Like so. And now we'll go ahead and mount it in this little case. So I'm just going to put this. Then to provide a little bit of strain relief, we'll go ahead and secure this part here with a cable tie. Put the cover on. And there, within a couple of minutes, we have ended this cable with a nice little Keystone Jack. So now we'll do the other side. There, now we have both sides done. So we'll go ahead and take our Ethernet tester here, and we'll make sure that we have a good cable. And as we can see, we have good signals. The last thing I'll do is I have these little stick-on labels that have numbers, and I'll go ahead and pull out the length of this particular cable. So in this case I've got a 15-foot cable, and I'll just wrap this around the end here like that. Put one on this end, so that way I can just look at this cable and immediately know how long it is. So hopefully you can see how easy that was to do. In a couple of quick minutes, we've created a stronger Ethernet cable with some ends on it that will tie into my pigtails like that. Now, another great advantage of this construction here is that these ends are not permanently attached. I can go ahead and take this end apart, or take all of these ends apart and redo it if something does happen to this particular cable, which is a very nice feature over the crimp-on ends that I just have to cut off and get rid of. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and it gives you some ideas. Please watch our other videos and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.